E-mini S&Ps move lower midweek, seeing a move down to 49.85, only slightly lower from Tuesday's close, but that comes after some hawkish comments via the January FOMC minutes, which showed the Fed was concerned about cutting rates too soon amid rising financial risks. Ultimately, the Fed had their work done for them. When we got the higher than expected inflation data last week, we saw equities move much lower, and obviously we saw the market kick those Fed rate cuts down the road a little bit. Instead of seeing them in possibly March or May, now the market is pricing more for June. And ultimately, the stock market has been watching that. The market really only wants cuts, isn't really as concerned when. Sooner than later is better, obviously. But clearly, the market just wants the Fed to start cutting, so that can help aid in rising equity pricing and valuations. But ultimately, seeing only a modest pullback today to 49.85. Now, that also comes today ahead of Nvidia earnings. And when you're talking about a $1.6 trillion company, that is going to have an effect. So keep an eye out. Those earnings will come out after the close later today. So what does this mean for volatility? Well, volatility typically moves higher when we see indices moving lower, and vice versa, it moves lower when we see the indices moving higher. Well, ultimately today we saw a nudge lower. We did see volatility moving higher. In fact, it's gotten to its highest close since last Tuesday when we saw the CPI number push equities down to their recent lows. But ultimately, there's something going on here between whether it's rising Fed risks, rising economic risks, rising earnings risks. It's all out there, and ultimately volatility remains elevated as we kind of look ahead to what might come. Lastly, let's talk about what we do have tomorrow. Tomorrow is Thursday, which means we get our in-the-moment look at the job market via the claims numbers. We also get the global PMI, some existing home sales. Then we get a slew of Fed speakers. One in particular we're going to be listening for is Mr. Harker from Philadelphia. He will be speaking directly about the economy. So midweek, equities, while they are still very close to those all-time highs, were down slightly today, hitting 49.85, slightly lower from Tuesday's close ahead of tomorrow's claims, global PMIs, existing home sales, and a bunch of Fed speakers.